generations, your parents, your teachers, everyone gave you the same simple advice. Go to college. Get the degree. They called it the golden ticket, right?
It's the undisputed path.
Exactly. You get that piece of paper and you were basically set. You had your ticket punched for a stable middle-class life, your whole economic future mapped out. But if you're looking at the landscape right now today, that ticket feels, well, it feels less like solid gold and more like a high-interest lottery scratch.
A scratcher that might pay off or might just leave you with a pile of debt.
And that's the hidden tension, the unspoken rule of our time that we're diving into today on Unspoken Rules. We are standing at a crossroads where the very foundation of higher education is being rattled to its core by some pretty intense new realities.
It's being challenged by structural changes and, of course, by disruptive technology that is changing everything.
Okay, so let's break this down. For you, the person trying to navigate all this, we've done a serious deep dive. We've gone through intelligence from the big players. We're talking Deloitte, Forbes Bazaars, Forbes, even the Federal Reserve.
And we're looking specifically at what's hitting U.S. higher education right now, the trends that are going to define 2025 and into 2026.
Our mission today is to decode the massive shift in what education is actually worth. For so long, the game was all about one thing: human capital.
Right. The knowledge, the skills you could prove you had, what you learned in a classroom.
But that's only half the equation now. The unspoken rule is that it's no longer just about human capital. We have to talk about social capital.
The networks, the relationships, the connections, who you know, not just what you know, and how those two things combine to determine the real financial return on investment, the ROI of your education.
Because it doesn't matter if you're a CEO, a mid-career professional thinking about a change, or a student staring at a tuition bill. You need to understand the physics of this new landscape.
And that landscape is being completely terraformed by two massive colliding forces. First, this thing people have been whispering about for years, the demographic cliff. It's not a whisper anymore, it's a reality.
A shrinking pool of students?
For the next 15 years. And second, what we're calling the skills-first revolution. This idea that what you can do matters more than where you learned it. And that revolution is being turbocharged by AI.
So let's start with the institutions themselves. They're in a pressure cooker right now, and we need to understand why.
Absolutely. We have to start with what the data is calling the institutional stress test. This isn't just a few small schools having a tough year. This is a structural realignment for everyone. It's a survival game.
And the biggest threat, the one that's, underpinning all the financial trouble, isn't just the budget, it's trust.
It's a fundamental erosion of public trust.
Yeah.
The data is, well, it's pretty damning, to be honest.
Lay it on us. How bad is it?
The public is basically retreating from higher education. Gallup data shows that public confidence in the whole sector has just plummeted. We're at only 42% in 2025.
42%.
And you have to put that in context. A decade ago, back in 2015, that number was 57%.
Wow. That's not a slow decline. That's a free fall. A 15-point drop in a decade. That's a colossal loss of faith in what was once a cornerstone American institution. What's driving it? I mean, we all know tuition is a huge part of it.
Tuition is number one with a bullet. But the sources point to this trifecta of concerns that are really fueling the crisis. First, as you said, the rising costs and the insane levels of student debt. The risk-reward calculation just isn't adding up for a lot of families.
The math doesn't work.
The math doesn't work. Second, there's a growing feeling that these institutions are totally misaligned with the modern workforce, that they're detached from the real practical skills you need to get a job.
And what's the third piece?
The third is a perception of politicization, a sense that the academic environment has become, ideologically charged instead of being a place for objective intellectual discovery.
So if you put those three together, it's too expensive, it won't get me a job, and it's politically polarized. I can see why confidence is cratering. So what do people want? What would it take to restore that trust?
It's the mirror image of the complaints. The public is crystal clear. They want lower costs, they want the politics and activism dialed way back, and they want a laser focus on practical, career-oriented skills.
Are the institutions listening? I mean, are they actively trying to fight this perception?
They're trying. They have to. They're working to anchor their entire strategy in something they can prove. Student success. That means more transparency about where the money goes, more accountability for outcomes.
And more connection to the real world, I'd imagine.
Exactly. Things like enhanced mentoring programs, more internships, especially paid ones, and creating on-campus jobs that actually build professional skills. The polling suggests these are the things that actually move the needle on trust.
It makes sense. If you can show a family, look, here's the tangible value, here are the real connections my child made, that's the best marketing you could ever have. But even if they fix the perception problem, they can't fix the math problem. The structural squeeze is coming no matter what.
And this is where it gets really stark. We're talking about the demographic cliff. It's been a buzzword in academic circles for a while, but it's not a projection anymore. It's here.
So explain what that means in practical terms. What does the cliff look like starting, well, right now?
The big pivot point is right after the 2024-2025 academic year. Because of the birth rate decline after the 2008 financial crisis, the entire national pool of 18-year-olds, the traditional college student, is set to shrink for the next 15 years.
15 years.
15 straight years. This isn't a temporary dip they could just write out. It's a structural reality baked into the census data. We're looking at national enrollment dropping back to levels we haven't seen since 2010.
A 15-year contraction is brutal for any industry. For one that runs on tuition dollars, it's an existential threat. So when the sources talk about consolidation, that's just a polite way of saying some schools aren't going to make it right.
It's a very polite way of saying some are headed for elimination. The closure rate is already picking up speed at an alarming rate. We saw a jump from 50 institutions closing their doors in 2022 to a staggering 80 in 2023.
80 schools in 1 year. Who's most at risk?
The most vulnerable are the small institutions, the ones with under 1,000 students. They're under immense financial pressure. They just don't have the scale or the endowment to weather this kind of storm.
And that must be just devastating for the communities where these small colleges are located.
It's a local tragedy. When a small rural college closes, it can hollow out the entire town's economy. The leaders of these schools are basically left with 4 options: acquire another institution, sell to a larger one, consolidate services, or just close.
And the advice is to act fast, I assume.
The core advice from firms like Forvis Mazars is to be proactive. Explore those partnerships while you're still financially viable, not when you're 2 weeks from payroll and have 0 leverage.
So even the schools that survive the demographic shock have to deal with their own internal issues. This idea of budgeting by inertia sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is. Deloitte's analysis on this is, frankly, scathing. For too long, departments just got budget increases based on last year's budget. It had nothing to do with performance or if the program was even relevant anymore.
It was just automatic.
Automatic. Now, they're being told they have to do a clear-eyed review of every single dollar. What programs, what expenses are actually driving the core mission of the institution?
That sounds like a zero-based budget. That's got to be politically explosive in a university setting.
Hugely. Because it means you don't just have to create incentives for shiny new programs, you have to create incentives to discontinue old ones. And that's the hard part.
And the leaders know this.
Oh, they know. Nearly half of all college presidents surveyed admit their own institutions have too many academic programs that need to be cut so they can focus their resources. But cutting programs, especially with tenured faculty, that takes enormous political will.
But it's becoming a matter of survival.
It's fast becoming a necessity.
Yeah.
And they can't just rely on their endowments to bail them out, because those are facing their own problems.
The returns have been all over the place, haven't they?
Completely volatile. The one-year return for fiscal year 2024 looked strong on paper, around 11.2%. But if you look at the 3-year average, it's a meager 3.4%. That's because of the massive negative return they took in 2022. That kind of inconsistency makes it impossible to plan.
I saw a really interesting quirk in the data, though. The smaller endowments actually beat the giants in 2024. Why did that happen?
That's right, and it was a strange feature of the market. The smaller endowments tended to have their money concentrated in a few large U.S. tech companies. And since those companies had an incredible year, the smaller funds rode that wave.
But that's not a long-term strategy.
Absolutely not. The long-term outlook is the real challenge. Capital market expectations for the next decade are, in a word, muted. We're talking expected annual returns somewhere between 3% and 7%. You cannot count on that to plug major structural deficits. It's a huge gamble.
So you have fewer students, less public trust, bloated budgets, and shaky investments. It's no wonder the political system is starting to pay very close attention.
And that adds a whole other layer of disruption. You've got a new administration's reform agenda hitting everything from funding and accreditation to even endowment taxation. The government is pushing universities to use their wealth for specific public good.
And then there are the cultural flashpoints, the campus protests, the debates over institutional neutrality. That's been all over the news.
Precisely. After all the polarization we saw in 2024, a lot of institutions are hitting the reset button. They're reevaluating their policies on free expression and whether the university, as an institution, should even take a political stance.
We're seeing some big names adopt these neutrality policies, right?
We are. Prestigious schools like Harvard, Vanderbilt, and Yale are all moving toward institutional neutrality.
What does that mean in practice? No more official statements on big social issues?
Essentially, yes. The university as an entity will limit its public statements, trying to stay nonpartisan. It's an attempt to de-escalate the tension, satisfy donors and alumni who want them to focus on education and really just stick to their core mission.
And at the same time, the debate around diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, is still a major battleground.
It's still front and center. You're seeing a real crackdown on these programs from conservative lawmakers, which was accelerated by the Supreme Court's decision on race-conscious admissions. It's created a massive regulatory headache for schools trying to maintain diversity while staying within the new legal lines.
But there's a fascinating connection here to another admissions practice, isn't there? The whole idea of legacy admissions.
It's directly connected. The push for a level playing field based on merit has put legacy admissions squarely in the crosshairs. If you can't get an advantage based on race, the argument goes, why should you get an advantage just because your parents went there?
So states are actually legislating against it.
They are. It's a direct assault on the perception of higher ed as an elitist club. If the goal is true meritocracy, then critics are saying you have to eliminate advantages based on family connections, not just other factors.
Okay, so to sum up this first part, the institutions are getting squeezed from every direction. Financially, politically, demographically. They're being forced to prove their value in a way they never have before.
And that strategic crisis forces us to look at the product itself. If the university is stressed, then the traditional four-year degree is now facing its own existential questions.
This is where the unspoken rules of the job market are being rewritten in real time. For decades, the degree was the price of admission. It was non-negotiable. And now you have some of the biggest companies in the world saying, we don't need it.
It's a seismic shift. This skills-driven hiring revolution is very, very real. And it's not some fringe Silicon Valley thing. We're talking about corporate giants leading the charge.
Who are we talking about specifically?
IBM, Google, Delta Airlines, Bank of America. These are massive mainstream employers, and they're all systematically removing bachelor's degree requirements for a huge number of their white-collar jobs.
And we've got hard data showing this is a broad trend, not just a few famous examples.
Oh, absolutely. A recent survey found that 53% of hiring managers, more than half, eliminated degree requirements for at least some roles in the past year.
For entry level, I'm guessing?
It's most pronounced there, yes. 70% of those employers made the change for entry-level roles. But it's also happening for mid-level positions, with 61% making the adjustment there too.
What's the real motivation here? I mean, the degree is such an easy way to filter 1,000 resumes down to 100. Why would they give that up?
The sources point to two big drivers, and it connects back to that equity conversation. First, it's strategic. They want to access a broader, untapped talent pool they've been ignoring.
And the second driver?
The second is explicitly about diversity. 70% of the employers who dropped the requirement said they did it to create a more diverse workforce. They recognize that a degree can be a gatekeeper that disproportionately filters out, for example, Black and Hispanic candidates.
So they're realizing the degree is a proxy for a certain background, not necessarily for the actual skills they need to get the job done.
Exactly. And this brings up a really important concept. The STARS workforce. That stands for skilled through alternative routes.
STARS.
These are the 70 million plus workers in the U.S. who have in-demand skills they learned through boot camps, community college, the military, on-the-job training, but they don't have that traditional four-year degree. Employers are waking up to the fact that they need this talent.
Okay, so here it is. The million-dollar question. If half of all employers are ditching the degree, is it finally obsolete? Because every time this conversation comes up, you hear the Federal Reserve come out and say, not so fast, the financial return is still huge.
And this is the absolute core of the issue. It's what you could call the two-tier trap. Because despite all the skepticism, the degree still provides a healthy ROI for the median graduate. The Fed's New York Bank puts the internal rate of return at 12.5%.
But 12.5% return is? That's a fantastic investment. It's hard to argue with that number. How does that play out in terms of actual income?
The gap is still massive. A household led by someone with a bachelor's degree has a median income of $132,700.
Okay.
That's more than double the $58,410 for a household led by someone with just a high school diploma. And over the last 20 years, the degree holders saw their real incomes go up 13%. The high school-only households, basically zero growth. It's still a powerful engine for building wealth.
But, and this is a huge but, you have to weigh that long-term return against the immediate debt-free earning power of the skilled trades. This is the choice a high school grad faces today.
It's the critical trade-off. A skilled tradesperson, an electrician, an HVAC tech, a welder, they often start earning more, much faster. And get this, 47% of skilled trades workers now earn more than the median college graduate.
That number is incredible. 47%. That's a complete reversal of the historical trend.
It is, and the unspoken rule here is the debt. The skilled worker often earns $10,000 to $20,000 more than a new college grad in those first few years, and they don't have the anchor of student loans weighing them down.
Which means their disposable income is way higher, right when it matters most for, buying a car or a house.
Exactly. An apprenticeship might take 6 months to 2 years. You're earning while you're learning. You're not accumulating tens of thousands in debt.
Give us some of the numbers. What are the top paying trades that are really outcompeting traditional college jobs?
These are high-skill, high-tech roles. We're not just talking about manual labor. Air traffic controllers can have a median salary around $135,000.
Oh, wow.
Power plant operators, $95,000. Specialized elevator technicians, they're earning around $88,000. These jobs blow away the starting salaries for a lot of popular college majors like marketing or communications, which often start in the $45K to $55K range.
So the right non-degree path can get you to six figures, debt-free, way faster. Which brings us back to what you call the skills first illusion. Explain that trap.
This is the really subtle part. Skills-based hiring is fantastic for getting you in the door. It gets you that first junior role, that first contract, but the moment you start looking up the ladder, the credentials suddenly reappear.
Ah, so it's a two-tier system. You can prove your skills to get the entry-level job, but if you want to be a manager, a director, a VP,
suddenly that degree from a prestigious school matters a whole lot more. The sources point to the Indian IT industry as a perfect example. For years, they claimed to be a pure meritocracy. But the wage data tells a different story.
How so?
An engineer from a top-tier school like IIT and an engineer from a third-tier school, even with identical skills and performance, will have dramatically different careers. The IIT grad gets paid more, promoted faster, not because they're necessarily better at coding, but because that credential signals other things employers value: network, persistence, perceived leadership potential.
So the unspoken rule is that employers use skills-first hiring to get cheap, flexible talent at the bottom, but they maintain the old credentialing system for the leadership pipeline at the top.
That is the uncomfortable truth. Skills get you in, credentials still determine who gets ahead, and this whole dynamic is just being put on hyperspeed by the rise of AI.
AI is the ultimate accelerator. It's changing the skills that are valuable faster than anything we've ever seen.
It's accelerating everything. PwC's research on this is mind-blowing. In jobs that are highly exposed to AI finance, software, data analysis, the skills employers are looking for are evolving 66% faster than in less exposed jobs.
66% faster. A 4-year degree curriculum can't possibly keep up with that pace.
It's impossible. If AI can write your code, draft your marketing copy, or build your financial model in seconds, what is the new human attribute that justifies your paycheck?
What's the new skill?
It's not about just using AI anymore. The data shows 90% of college students already use it for brainstorming or drafting. The new critical attribute is AI fluency.
And fluency is different from just usage.
It's a world of difference. Fluency is the critical thinking to write a good prompt. It's the judgment to know when the AI is hallucinating. It's the ethical framework to use it responsibly with client data. It's the verification habits to fact-check everything. That's what employers will pay a premium for.
So the institutions have to change their entire model. They can't just teach content anymore if the required skills are a moving target.
Exactly. It creates an existential crisis for them, which forces a complete redesign of what education even looks like. And that brings us to some of the most exciting innovations happening right now.
Okay, so the pressure is on. The demographic cliff, the skills-first revolution, it's forcing universities to get flexible, fast, and focused on outcomes. The old 120 credit 4-year model is on the ropes.
The key word is flexibility. It's about survival now. The modern learner isn't an 18-year-old on a straight path. They're older, they're working, they have families. They need to be able to jump in, pause their studies, and jump back out.
And we're starting to see states actually mandate this flexibility. The degree in 3 model is picking up real steam.
It is. This 90-credit bachelor's degree isn't just a theory, it's becoming policy. In Indiana, a state law is forcing all public universities to offer at least one 3-year degree by July of 2025.
It's not an option, it's a mandate.
It's a mandate. And Utah is doing something similar, sanctioning 3-year degrees that are designed with industry by cutting down on the number of elective courses.
Which seems like the most logical path, right? Keep the core major rigorous, but trim the fat around the edges to save students a year of tuition and get them into the workforce faster.
And this shift away from the rigid credit hour system opens the door to something even more fundamental, a move toward competency over credit hours.
So measuring what you can actually do, not how long you sat in a chair.
Precisely. Instead of just trusting the clock, universities are experimenting with new ways to assess and catalog skills. We're talking about robust practical assessments, portfolio reviews, project-based learning that mimics real-world tasks.
It's about tangible proof.
Tangible proof of proficiency. As one expert in the sources put it, we simply can't keep minting degrees that have no value. The programs had to show that their graduates can actually apply their knowledge from day one.
And one big generic degree isn't enough anymore to show that specific proof. This is where the boom in micro-credentials comes in.
This is the most direct response to the skills-first hiring trend. Institutions are embedding specific, industry-recognized skills right into their degree programs. The University of Texas system, for example, is building these micro-credentials directly into their bachelor's degrees.
And the credentials themselves are becoming more portable, more visible online.
That's the digital proof piece, and it's critical. It solves the verification problem for employers. Brandeis University is launching hard-skill micro-credentials in things like applied statistical analysis or policy analysis that will show up on your official transcript.
And you get a badge you can put on LinkedIn.
Exactly. A shareable, verifiable digital badge. It's a new way to show what you know. It's immediate, it's specific, and it's what employers want to see.
I also saw that schools are trying to credential soft skills, which have always been so hard to prove.
Yes, Seton Hall is launching a career readiness badge that's aligned with the competencies defined by the National Association of Colleges and Employers. It's a self-paced program that walks students through building and demonstrating skills like teamwork, communication, and critical thinking.
So it takes those fuzzy concepts and turns them into documented, verifiable evidence that you can show an employer in an interview.
That's the idea. You add the badge to your portfolio, and you can say, I didn't just learn this, I took the initiative to master these professional skills that you said are critical.
But it's not just the traditional universities that are innovating. The alternative providers, the ones who are built for speed and ROI from the start, are really gaining ground.
Online education is a great example. It's no longer seen as second best. The data shows 90% of online grads report a positive ROI, and over 2/3 got a job in their desired field right after graduation. The market respects it.
But if we're talking about the absolute fastest path to ROI, we have to talk about coding boot camps. They are perfectly designed for this new world.
The financial case for boot camps is just undeniable. They're short, usually 3 to 6 months. They cost, say, $12,000 to $20,000. And the salary jump is huge.
What kind of jump are we talking about?
The median salary jump is about 56%. That's an extra $24,000 to $25,000 a year on average. People go from making around $47,000 before the boot camp to over $70,000 in their first tech job.
And the payback period must be incredibly short.
It's ridiculously short. Most grads recoup their entire investment, tuition and all, within 12 to 14 months of getting that first job. Compare that to the years it takes to pay off an average computer science degree.
So who is this model best for? Who gets the highest return?
The sources identify 3 key groups. First, career changers from lower paying fields like retail or hospitality. They can double their income. Second, underemployed college grads, the English or history majors, who can bolt on a technical skill. And third, people already in IT adjacent roles who can pivot into higher-paying engineering jobs.
So the next generation of education is faster, it's verifiable, it's digital. But we've spent all this time talking about degrees and skills, human capital. And I think we're missing the most important unspoken rule of all.
We have to shift the conversation now. It's not just about what you know. It's about who you know. It's about social capital.
Exactly. We've established that human capital, your skills, is being commoditized and accelerated by AI. The true differentiator, the thing that will sustain a career through all this disruption, is your social capital, your network, your connections, your trusted relationships.
And this is the great failing of a purely skills-based approach to education. It has to be about more than just delivering content. It has to be about intentionally building social capital. Because right now, we have a massive crisis of student disengagement.
How bad is it?
The research is staggering. A full 72% of recent high school graduates feel moderately, slightly, or not at all prepared for life after school.
72%. That is a damning statistic. It points to a complete disconnect between what they're learning and the reality of being a functioning adult.
It's a failure to connect the dots. They might be passing the tests, but they aren't learning the agency, the maturity, the confidence they need to build a meaningful life and career. A good education has to be about more than just job training. It has to prepare you for the complexities of life.
And we can't ignore the non-economic benefits here. It's not just about earning more money, it's about developing into a resilient, capable person.
That's a huge part of the social capital argument. The on-campus experience, at its best, fosters autonomy, competence, and connectedness. Psychologists say those are the three pillars of well-being and resilience. You're not just learning content, you're learning how to be an adult.
And that social capital becomes incredibly valuable once you're actually in the workplace. Strong relationships aren't just a nice to have, they're a core driver of performance.
The data is so clear on this. 47% of employees who have a close friend at work say their job is very fulfilling. For those without a close friend, that number dropped to just 21%.
And I bet it has a huge impact on retention.
A massive impact. Strong social bonds reduce churn. Fostering a connected, supportive workplace isn't some fluffy HR initiative. It's a hard-nosed competitive strategy.
This feels especially true for the younger generations, for Gen Z.
Absolutely. Gallup's data shows employee engagement is at a decade low overall, but the drop was sharpest for workers under 35, a 5-point drop in just 1 year. Gen Z wants purpose, they want empathy, they want connection. A purely transactional, skills-based workplace is not going to engage them.
So if social capital is so critical, how do you actually scale it? Scaling content is easy, you just record a video. But scaling human connection? That seems impossible.
It used to be. For a long time, online learning was great at scaling content, but terrible at scaling connection. It was often a very lonely experience. But the technology and the models have evolved.
Give us an example of how this is working.
Stanford's Code in Place program is the perfect case study. It's a huge online programming course that enrolls 12,000 students from all over the world.
12,000. How do you build connection at that scale?
They do it by breaking it down. Every student is placed in a small, synchronous section of just 10 people, led by a live human section leader. They recruit and manage 1,200 of these volunteer leaders.
So you get the flexibility of learning the content on your own time, but you also get the mandatory structured human interaction.
That's the magic. It's what they call mesoscale. It's bigger than a single classroom, but smaller than a massive impersonal online course. And what's amazing is that the network effects make the course better as it gets bigger. You're more likely to find someone in your time zone in your city to connect with. It scales social capital.
And this idea goes beyond just college courses. I saw a fascinating example of how professional communities are building social capital online.
The Women in Procurement, or WIP community, is a great example. They use their online network to share knowledge and, just as importantly, overcome some of the subtle cultural barriers in a male-dominated field.
The sources broke their capital down into 3 types, right?
Yes. Structural capital, which is the network itself,
Yeah.
the ties, the meetings. Relational capital, which is the really important one, the trust, the sense of belonging, the reciprocity. And cognitive capital, which is the shared language and vision they all have.
So what are the tangible career benefits of being in a network like that?
They're huge and immediate. First, they tackle those cultural barriers. For example, they talk about the tendency for women to only apply for jobs if they meet 100% of the criteria, whereas men might apply with 60%. The peer support in the group gives them the confidence to go for it.
And what about the knowledge sharing?
It's like having a hive mind. Because of the high trust, information about new vendors, new technologies like generative AI or pricing changes get shared at the speed of light. They can accumulate knowledge much faster than they could alone in their own company.
So the network gives them access to information and perspectives they would never get otherwise.
Exactly. It's a space for what the sources call pre-competitive cross-market comparisons. That's incredibly valuable for staying ahead of the curve.
We have to touch on the international perspective too. The prestige of a foreign degree has always been a huge deal. Is social capital changing that game as well?
It absolutely is. For international students, say from China or India, who go to a university in the UK or Australia, the simple premium of that foreign degree is shrinking.
Why is that?
Because at the end of the day, their success back home depends on their local networks and connections. A domestic graduate might get a job faster because they have those deep local ties that the overseas grad lacks. That foreign degree is no longer a guaranteed golden ticket.
So the unspoken rule is universal. The paper is important, but the network is what makes the paper valuable.
That's the key takeaway. Institutions and individuals have to focus on relationships, not just certificates. Social capital is what determines how you enter the workforce, how resilient you are, and frankly, what your broader life outcomes look like.
We have covered an incredible amount of ground, from the financial vice squeezing universities to the insane speed of AI-driven skills to the comeback of the skilled trades. It is so clear that higher education is in the middle of a profound, painful, but ultimately creative transformation.
If we synthesize it all down, it's this critical intersection. Universities are facing a demographic and financial crisis they can't avoid. At the exact same time, the job market is demanding skills that are faster, cheaper, verifiable, and AI fluent. The old value proposition is broken.
What's so fascinating is that the degree isn't going away. It's not disappearing. But its job, its function, is changing completely. It used to be the sole currency of human capital.
The one and only thing that mattered.
Now it's more like a ticket to entry. It gets you into the game, but it's a ticket that has to be constantly updated with micro-credentials and, most importantly, paired with deliberate, lifelong investments in your social capital.
Those networks, those relationships, that's the real durable asset.
Right.
That's what sustains you. That's what lets you move from a skills-based entry-level job to a credential premium leadership role.
Right.
The era of just getting a diploma and coasting is over.
Which leaves us and you with one final provocative thought based on everything we've analyzed today. Here's the unspoken rule to consider. We know that 47% of skilled tradespeople now earn more than the median college grad. We know AI is automating the bottom rung of white-collar work. If the safest path in the past was the four-year degree, is the safest path today one that combines a fast, specialized credential with the high-wage, non-automatable power of an essential skilled trade, letting you avoid the debt trap entirely? It's something to think about as you plan your next move. And now, for the final unspoken rule of our time together. You can't leave without leaving a mark. The algorithm, you see, it has its own rules, its own hunger for connection. The greatest mark you can leave is to hit that subscribe button. It's the signal that you're part of this network now. Then, feed the machine with a comment. Share that one unspoken rule that resonated with you the most. Ring that bell so you never miss a secret. And finally, give this video a thumbs up. It's the simplest way to tell the world that these are the rules worth knowing. Until next time, stay ahead of the curve.